What a perfect day to have Steve Barkhouse in the house. Leanne.
And I have to say, it's actually a happy coincidence, Michael. It is always great to have Steve here. We were going to chat exclusively about kitchen renovations, but we're just going to chat about one, and that's after we access your expertise on flooding. That forecast will really upset anyone who's without a sump pump right now, or anyone who's dealing with groundwater or leaks from above, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. So when the power goes out, the sump pumps aren't working, obviously. So that can cause a big problem if you don't have a battery backup. So people that have that situation, although we've got a lot of rain right now and there's people affected, the water will run downhill. There's going to be more people down the line that will be affected. So if you can get a battery backup in there, that's the way to go. The wind is super strong.
A storm, and a perfect storm, and that wind blew all of the leaves off of the trees, and the leaves are now in the gutters.
In the gutters, yeah.
Blocking the flow of the water away from your home. So that's probably, but I mentioned just before we went to commercial that just because you have a leaky ceiling right now, and it's the first time it's ever leaked for you,
right,
you would like everyone to know not to panic. It's not the roof necessarily.
Yeah, if you can imagine, on the roof you've got your vents, and they've got screens on them to keep the animals out, but when the rain is driven and it hits the roof and bounces up, it literally bounces up and into those vents, and that's causing some of the leakage. You've got brick faces that have weeping holes to let the water out, windows that are designed to let the water out, but because it's being driven in, they're going to leak. So it mightn't be a big problem, it might just be this situation that you have to deal with.
And the water coming in from above is clean water. The water coming in from below, likely contaminated water because of?
Well, it's flowing on the ground, so there's oils and gases on the roads that's going in, but there's also feces, fertilizers, everything that's in there. So really be careful with the water that's seeping into the houses. You've got to be super careful with that. I'd call your insurance. You don't really want to deal with that. You can deal with the other ones. If you've got the leak, we saw a leak earlier on television there, poke a little hole in that drywall so that you can direct the water through the hole into the pot. You want to mitigate the damages as much as you can. Move your stuff out of the basement as quickly as you can so that it doesn't get damaged as well.
What about electricity?
Electricity is not too much of a concern. The water has to get up that high, and the plugs are set up a certain height, especially for that issue. If the water gets up there, obviously stay away, but really it's not an issue. If you see it rising quickly, you can go and throw the breaker, and away you go.
You say that we have a really effective system in Ottawa to get rid of the water, but it's just, I mean, this is such a rainfall that everything's taxed. We were showing the visuals of kind of backed up sewers, but wanted to have you just demonstrate again, because we didn't have you on camera when you said just poke a hole in the ceiling drywall, put a bucket underneath, because that prevents the water from kind of spreading through the...
Right, in the picture we saw earlier, the water was running across the beam. So the water will find a route down, and it will hits a structural beam, and it'll run along it, and it'll drip all the way along. Whereas if you just poke a hole, it'll come to that, it'll flow to the easiest way to go, and it'll come in the hole. You just have one bucket underneath instead of a whole bunch of buckets along, and keep it off the floor so it doesn't damage anything else. Okay,
that's a great little kind of way to kind of set the stage from above and from below. And we were laughing in the commercial break because it wasn't funny at the time. I was house sitting and it was a leak.
Yeah.
We met because of a leaky ceiling or a leaky roof.
For sure, yeah.
Well, and it was in a kitchen. So now we're going to move to a really elegant, simple but lovely, award-winning kitchen renovation. We're going to talk about the before and what the homeowners didn't like.
Well, we're going to talk about planning as always, and how you plan your kitchen renovations. You want to identify the goals you have in mind. So believe it or not, this kitchen was too bright. We're always looking to get natural light in, but it was too bright because the floor was high gloss, the countertops high gloss, and the cabinets themselves had a real sheen to them. So the client wanted to get rid of that. Also above the cabinets, you can see that little gap. Everybody who has that knows that dirt and dust and grease gets up in there. It's almost impossible to clean. Well, our clients had cats that would live up in there, and it was almost impossible to get them down, so that was another problem.
Could predict that.
Exactly. Yeah. It was also a little outdated. So here's the after shot.
That is beautiful.
Well, it's nice, isn't it? So we've gone with matte finishes. So we could have put a blind on the window, but we want that natural light. They had a beautiful backyard we wanted to be able to see. So we've got the matte finish. It absorbs the light. We've got some products here that can illustrate that, but the matte granite on the countertop, the matte cabinets, it allowed us to go with the stainless steel appliances because we were able to absorb enough light, and it's a brushed nickel finish as well. So you can see this is sort of the pièce de résistance.
Pop of color.
It is, and it's actually the color, a red color, is we want to personalize every job. So the color is the color of the football team, the college football team that they cheer for. It also has a butcher block top to it because they love woodworking and they wanted to bring that in. But we put the backsplash tile in there to tie it all together.
That is beautiful. Oh yeah, you think of everything, and clearly you're even invading my subconscious. I think that's why I chose the matte finish on the jacket today to match the matte finish on the kitchen. We're going to come back, and Steve is going to answer some of your questions and talk about planning. Apparently, it's planning, Michael, if you have a renovation in your future.
Makes sense.